G'day, it's Dan Beeston here for Mac Tuts Plus. In this episode, we're going to be doing some audio editing, getting rid of those little teeny tiny ums and ahs and trying to do it as quickly as possible. First up, we want to know what actions we do when we edit. So let's open up a little bit of audio in Audacity, our favourite free audio editor. And what do we do when we're editing? Well, we start and we stop. So
now the thing about the left channel is
starting and stopping is a fairly crucial one. We're also going to want to be able to select a single channel. So split that stereo track, grab a single channel, and we're going to want to be able to generate a silence to get rid of it. Nice and quiet on that channel. We're also going to want to be able to select some audio and then select both channels. And then play it.
It's the more persuasive.
And we're going to want to be able to delete it.
Lizard is part of an audio, any audio, whereas the right channel is what...
So this doesn't take long for each thing, but if you're doing it a couple of hundred times for a longer podcast, then it's taking a fair bit of time, and you can certainly speed up using macros. Now, first things first, what sort of mouse do you have? I've purchased a mouse with a number of extra buttons. I've got the Logitech M620, but there are stacks of mice out there with multiple buttons on them. Now this mouse actually has 6 buttons. You've got your left and your right button. Your scroll wheel is a third button. You've got a forward and back button down here for buttons 4 and 5, and there's even a search button on there. So 6 buttons in total. But how do we set up those buttons to do exactly what we want them to? Well, first things first, don't install the drivers to your mouse. That will install specialized software that overrides anything else in the system. What we want is to use Controllermate. Controllermate is wonderful. It's got its own drivers for pretty much any piece of hardware out there, and so we're going to set it up to work with our mouse. We're going to set up a programming group, and that programming group is only going to activate when we're running Audacity in the foreground. Now set up a programming page underneath it. Select our palette, go down to activity, and we'd like to find all the buttons on our mouse. So I'll press my scroll wheel button, my back button, my forward button, and my search button. And you can see I've got buttons 3, 4, 5, and search. I'll put them here so that I can access them all. Now if I click my button 4 button, you can see it turning on and off. Button 5 going on and off. If I then go to Audacity and I click button 4, you can see that it's got some default behavior where it jumps to there. You can't drag. It's a OneShot. Click. Now we want to turn off that default behavior. So let's go back to Controllermate. Go up to our controllers. And what we need to do is find the controller that we're using. Now, if I click the button, none of those are highlighting. Scroll down a bit. Oh, you can see it's glowing blue. That's the mouse that we're using. So, if I click on that, under device, it's got all the different controls that we'd use. Button 1, you can see it turning on and off there. Button 2, button 3, button 4. It even has the X and Y axis of the mouse. But what we want is the driver configuration. So drag that across to our group, and you can see all of our buttons and their default behaviors are set. What we're going to do is we're going to turn buttons 3, 4, and 5 off. Now if we go into Audacity and we click the 4th button, nothing. Beautiful. Alright, well the first thing we want to do is enable a button that allows us to stop and start. Well, that's easy enough. That's your spacebar.
Left channel is
Spacebar and spacebar starts and stops. So, nice and easy. Go to Controllermate. Open up our keystrokes palette and drag spacebar up to button 4. Now when we click button 4, spacebar clicks. So go back to Audacity, hit button 4.
about the left channel is it's the more persuade.
Click it again and it stops. Now, if we wanted to hold down on that button,
Now the thing.
it's going to start glitching out, just like it would do if you held down on the spacebar. Now I don't want that to happen, so back in Controllermate, I'm going to set that spacebar under the inspector to only be a one shot. This means instead of pressing and holding when that button activates, it only clicks once. So go back to Audacity, hold down on my button 4,
Now the thing about the left channel is
nothing. No glitches, no repetitions. If you find that one of your macros isn't working properly, check to make sure that you've set that one shot on your keys that you're using. I don't know why it's not set by default, really. Alright, number 2, what if we wanted to select this here on the bottom channel and silence it? Well, I do that all the time. So let's split that track into stereo. Now I can just select one channel, and in order to silence it, I'd have to go to Generate and Silence, and then click OK, and that's silent. But I can do all that with keystrokes if I wanted to. So we can grab that, then hit Control F2 to select the menu, hit G for generate, down, S for silence, enter, enter. That's a lot of keystrokes. We can automate that. Go to Controllermate, and we'll make button 3 our silence button. We'll get an output of the keystrokes building block. Select our inspector and go to Capture. Now what did we do? We hit Control F2, we hit G, we hit down, we hit S, we hit enter twice. Stop. You can see it's recorded it there. And now in Audacity, if we undo that, select and hit our button 3, boom, it silences it all with one click. Now let's go back. That was a little bit slow, so we can speed it up by clicking the speed button and making it go at 40 keystrokes a second. We could set it as fast as possible, and if we go to Audacity and we try again, oh, it freaks out. These programs weren't designed to do things as fast as possible, so often it's a little bit more helpful just to set it nice and fast, but not too fast. So we'll test that again at 40 a second, hit the button, boom, nice and silent. And grab that, nice and quick. Excellent. Now the next thing we want to do is select some audio to delete. Now it's very rare that we'd want to just delete in one channel. So we'd probably select there, have a listen.
Where's the right channel? This one.
If we want to delete that, we'd probably want to hit Command Shift K to get all the channels, and then hit delete. Although, there is a bit of a problem there. Now one problem we have deleting in Audacity, and I'll just zoom in. If I cut from there to there and hit delete, I end up with a really nasty little pop happening there. Have a listen. And before that, after, really nasty little snapping sound. And that's going to make your recording sound a little bit unprofessional. So what you can do in those instances is you can actually go to Edit, find 0 crossings, and it'll slide to 0, 0. So when you delete it, it doesn't pop. We didn't get that harsh snapping sound there. So if you do want to delete something, I'd advise you to grab what you want, hit Z, and then hit delete. But that's a number of keystrokes. Because we're selecting one, we're hitting Shift-Command-K to get 2 channels, then we're hitting Z to get our 0 crossing, then we're hitting delete. Let's automate that. Go to Controllermate, and button 5 will be keystrokes. And we're going to capture. We're going to hit Shift-Command-K. We're going to hit Z for 0 crossings. We're going to hit delete. Then we're going to jump back a second, so we'll hit comma, and then we'll hit space so it starts playing again. Stop. Go to Audacity, find what we want to get rid of, and then hit our button 5.
Speaking into the left. Now the thing about the left.
Oh, nice. That's really good for getting rid of ums and ahs.
It's the more persuasive.
Let's try that again.
It's
That's a big Select it, hit button 5.
left channel is. It's the more persuasive.
That sounds great. But what if I recognise that already? Do I really want to select it? Wouldn't it be great just to click and go? Well, what if I used the search button to highlight that and then delete it as soon as my finger came up? Well, let's go to Controllermate. So first thing we want to do is make sure that there is a click. So we can go down to mouse button building block. And when it's turned on, the button comes down, and when it's turned off, the button goes up. Then we get our delete code, copy it over here, and then we're going to get ourselves some logic. We're going to get a not block. So when that button goes up, it goes on. That's when the button's held down, button comes up, it goes on and activates our delete macro. And so what we expect to happen is that we can hold down, drag, and highlight what we want to delete, and then when that button comes up, it'll delete. Oh, but what's happened there? It hasn't worked. Well, the problem with that mouse up, mouse down button is that you can sometimes screw up Controllermate so that you can no longer click anything. So in order for that not to happen, this button here will only work, and you'll see here, when the Controllermate application is closed. The background helper application will allow it to run. So let's save our work there and quit Controllermate. And now hold down on our search button, drag it across what we want to get rid of, lift our finger. So that is really going to increase my workflow. I can just grab those ums and ahs, drag and remove them with a single click. Now what happens if I click my button 5? Now I can delete stuff by selecting it and then clicking my button 5 and deleting it. But what if I don't select anything and I just click it? Oh, it deletes everything. I hate that. So I'm going to Preferences, Tracks, and here where it says select all audio in project if none selected, no. I just find that irritating. Now, if I hit my button 5,
Now the thing about the left channel.
It doesn't delete it. So that's going to speed up your workflow in Audacity pretty effectively. We can start and stop with our button 4.
Now the thing about the left.
we can select an area to silence and silence it with a click. We can select and then delete it with a single click. And we can just drag over something that we know we want to get rid of with our search button, lift the finger up, and it's gone too. Nice and quick. So that's great for Audacity. What about a different program? So let's take a look at Twistedwave. Starting and stopping, just as easy. Spacebar. Spacebar again. So let's go to Controllermate. So let's make a new group. Let's call it Twistedwave. And select Twistedwave to be running in the foreground. And make a new page. Grab those buttons. That one, that one, that one, and that one. Search 5, 4. What happened to our button 3? There it is. So we just want our spacebar. So bring up the keystrokes palette. Drag our spacebar out. Don't forget to make it a one-shot. And now when we go to Twistedwave and hit button 4, that's not working. What have we done there? We've put Twistedwave inside our Audacity group. So let's move that out there. Now when we go to Twistedwave, brilliant. Starts and stops. Now we want to silence this bit, but it's going to be a lot easier for us later on if we can lock these channels together. You can do that with stereo by just clicking in the middle, but what if we had more than 2 channels? Well, then it would make it a lot trickier. So let's do that now. I'm going to edit the keyboard shortcuts, select our lock channels button, and select L as our lock channels button, and re-effect it. Lovely. So now when we hit L, it locks the channel, so wherever we click, it clicks all of those channels. Click L again, and you just get this channel. So we're going to lock it, so the whole thing is locked. And now you can only select the entirety of the thing, and then hit S to silence, but we're silencing too much of it there. So let's undo that, and set up a special macro that allows us to only select one channel. So I'm going to do something clever. What I want to do is find my mouse and get buttons 1 and 2. And now, when both of them are together, I want that to replicate the L button. So we get an L. And then when it goes off, I want it to hit the L again. So let's copy and paste that. So now button 1 goes on and nothing happens. Button 2 goes on and nothing happens. But if button 1 goes on and button 2 goes on, then you hit the L button, and then when it comes off, you hit the L button again. What does that mean in Twistedwave? Well, I can hold down my 1 button to select it, and then hit my 2nd button, and drag, and it unlocks it, selects that row, and then I take my finger off the 1st button, and the 2nd button, and notice how it's flickering up there. It's flickering because we didn't set it as a, we didn't set it as a one-shot. So let's get that L, select it as a one-shot, and that L, select that as a one-shot. Try again. 2nd button, lift our finger off the 1st button, and the 2nd button, and now hit S on the keyboard and it silences it. Now wherever we drag, it's still locked together. We want to use the mouse to simulate that silence. So let's open up our keyboard palette, grab our S, and now our third button is the silence button again. Now to get rid of ums and ahs.
A certain intimacy.
Let's zoom into that. Now we want to get rid of this. Hit the fourth button and we can hear it. Oh, we don't need that. So to get rid of it, we could get our zero crossing. Although in Twistedwave, you can actually set it to auto extend to the zero crossing, so you don't have to worry about it. But I've got an even better solution, because what we're going to do is we're going to go to Edit, Delete and Crossfade, and change the duration to 0.1 of a second. It's hardly any time at all, but it blends what comes before with what comes after. And that makes it really easy to edit out ums and ahs that butt up against content that you want to keep. Of course, whenever I do that, I'm going to want to hit left, 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 spacebar to hear it again, just to make sure that it did cut out properly. Well, these are all keystrokes, aren't they? So, under Controllermate, let's get another output, keystrokes building block. We'll capture it, and we'll hit Command Delete, Enter, left, 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 space, stop. Now we want to get rid of something. Let's bring that guy back. We'll highlight it, hit our button 5,
A certain intimacy.
and with a single click we delete and crossfade. We authorize that and we move the cursor back a little bit, and then we start it playing so that we can hear exactly the changes that we've made. And if I wanted to hold down on my search button to get rid of it, well, I'd probably do that exactly the same way as before. I'd create a mouse click, button down, button up, select some logic, so when it goes not, I just copy in that macro, save it, close Controllermate because that left button down and up won't work unless Controllermate's closed, and then just drag over the top.
A certain intimacy.
And with a single click, we can get rid of those ums and ahs when we see them. I can wander through.
But people don't tune in for intimacy.
Yep, that's not right. That's not right.
But people don't tune in for intimacy, do they?
I want to get rid of, make that silent. Hit the silence button. And now I am speedy as, churning through my podcast workflow. It used to take me 4 hours to edit an hour-long podcast. I've got that down to less than 2 thanks to these little shortcuts. Often, all it takes is for you to ask the question, how can I do this with hotkeys? To really speed yourself up. As always, if you have any comments, any questions, any advice, I'd love it. So please feel free to make a comment. This is Dan Beeston for MacTuts Plus.